We are back with a new but very different kind of video today. I've done 5 night shifts in a row, so I'm finally getting some time to finish this. In this video, we've got Pike, we've got Chub, and we've got one catch that ruined an entire fishing session. Ooh. Okay guys, so today's video is going to be a little bit different than the normal format. So over the past month, we have been out for a couple of shorter sessions, but none of them really warranted enough footage for its own video. But instead of having them just sat on a hard drive, I decided to make a little compilation video today of combining them two together into one long form video. Now, both these sessions were incredibly frustrating. Both very similar, but also very different. Similar in the fact that they were frustrating, but also very different on methods of fishing and the type of fish we were targeting. Okay, so let's get into this then. So, the first session that I have for you today was a short lure session. So this time of year, the rivers are absolutely filled with small fry that have just been hatched, and the perch are feeding up on them, getting big for winter, ready to spawn themselves. So the best way to target the perch is to imitate them fry. So we went down in the river with some small 5cm plastic shads that imitate the fry in the river. Match that up with a 5g jig head to get quite low down the bottom, and hopefully try and get some perch, pike, any predators that would happily be feeding them fry. At the start of the season, I couldn't wait to get back out on the bank. I finished work, grabbed the lure rod and headed down to one of my local stretches with a couple of hours before it got dark. The plan was pretty simple really, just cover plenty of water, keep moving and hopefully find an active fish or two. Opening day can be a bit unpredictable sometimes, so they're feeding straight away, and other times it feels like every fish in the river has disappeared. So I started off around this, fished areas because it usually holds a few predators, but after working a few different lures through here, there wasn't even a follow. Not exactly the dream start I was hoping for, rather than standing in one place all evening. I decided to keep moving on. So that's one thing I really enjoy about lure fishing. You're constantly exploring new swims, trying different angles, and just seeing what's around the next bend. So after another couple of spots with nothing to show for it, I was starting to think it just wasn't going to happen tonight. So the conditions did look decent, but the fish weren't playing ball at all. So at this point, I was starting to think, what can I do to change this approach? So I switched up to a slightly smaller lure and started working a little bit around the areas. So the idea here was to try and retrieve it slow and steady and try something a little bit different to try and entice a bite. And then finally, I felt that little knock through the rod. Nothing massive, but after a quiet evening, it was nice to finally get a bite. After finally prevailing, and after a few changes of lure, I finally managed to hook into a small pike. And it wasn't really the monster I was hoping for, but it definitely made me happy considering how tough it was on the river that evening. There's something special about catching the first river fish each season that always feels special no matter the size, and hopefully the sign of bigger things to come over the next few months. And if you're enjoying the video, why not like and subscribe? It really does help out the channel. Now back to the video. So a few days after my lure session, I decided to have a complete change of pace and I headed down to a small river that's a little bit further away from home, but I have heard it does contain some very big chub, and that's exactly what I was hoping to target. With this river looking in great condition, I decided to keep things very simple. I had the feeder rod set up with a maggot feeder, loaded it up with plenty of maggots and fished it off with a worm and a few maggots on the hook. If there was any decent chub feeding, it would pretty confident and struggle to ignore that. I'll try over that side. Almost as soon as the feeder settled on the bottom, I was getting little taps on the rod. It looked the fish were definitely interested. By the time I struck, absolutely nothing. I thought maybe I was being too eager, so I started waiting a little longer before striking. I tried striking earlier, changed hook length, slowed everything down, and even recast a few times to freshen the bait up, but it made absolutely no difference at all. Every single cast was the same story. Tap, 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 rod tip would rattle away, I'd lift it, and there'd be absolutely nothing there. At this point, I was convinced there had been loads of small fish picking up the bait. Eventually, after another series of knocks, struck into the rod, and I finally found out what was causing all this commotion. My line! Ugh. Ugh. So it turned out I did actually hook a crayfish. Well, that explains quite a few of these mysterious bites. I just couldn't help but laugh at this. So I spent all this time wondering what was stealing my baits. It turned out to be a crayfish. Of all the things, it's not even a real fish at the end of the day.
It's deep in its mouth. It's hooked right there and it's got... Oh. Ah! Oh my god. So we caught something, but it's not even a real fish.
So thinking I'd probably found a bad patch, I decided to move further down the river and try another swim. Surely things would improve. Well, not exactly. Swim started exactly the same. Tiny knocks, little rattles on the rod tip, plenty of signs of life, but still no proper fish. After a strike, I felt the familiar weight again. It was another crayfish. Well, almost. This one managed to shake itself off before I could get it into the net. And at this point, I realised that they were everywhere. After wasting what felt like half a bait on crayfish, I decided enough was enough.
So we've been here for a good few hours now, and all we seem to be catching is crayfish. We're getting a lot of knocks on the rod with no indication of fish on the end, and everything indicating that it's crayfish bothering us. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to get blasted in the comments of this, but yes, I am going to tie a float onto a feeder rod. But sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So I'm going to put a float on. I'm going to change my depth a little off bottom, and hopefully we should get fish instead of crayfish.
Sometimes watching a float can give you a little bit more information than watching a quiver tip, and almost straight away the float started dipping under. I thought perfect. Or so I thought. Everyone looked like a proper bite. The float disappeared completely, and somehow there was still nothing attached. Honestly, I was completely baffled by this point, and I tried two different methods, moved swims, and still couldn't work out what was going on. Back to the original swim for one last attempt before calling it a day. This time, with the float drifting through, I finally spotted the real culprit. This swim was absolutely full of minnows. Tiny little fish were attacking the bait almost instantly, constantly dragging the float under and making it look like proper bites. And at least the mystery was finally solved. So we went to a river that was either getting me crayfish or minnows. How do you get out of that one? So in hindsight, I really should have took something a bit bigger, like cheese paste, etc., and fished just slightly off the bottom, but I had none of that. I wasn't preempting this, which is very stupid of me, but that's fishing. But there's actually a happy ending in this story. So after fishing through the minnows for a while, I eventually managed to hook into something a little more respectable.
Yeah.
I know a minnow.
Minnow. It's a roach.
A baby or
Nice little roach. Nothing exactly the specimen chub I'd driven over here, hoping. But after the afternoon I had, I was more than happy to finally see an actual fish. And a few casts later, I hooked into another fish. This time it was a chub. Again, out of nowhere. Not a big river chub, a little tiny thing. But it was nice to finally see some results from this river at least, so I went away happy in the end. So you head out dreaming about catching the fish of a lifetime, and instead you spend half the day trying to work out what's stealing your bait. That's all part of it. And even through the session, didn't end with the monster chub I imagined. I still learned something about the river, and that's usually what keeps me coming back. So we'll probably see this river again in a future video, and hopefully we'll have some bigger chub this time. and no crayfish or minnows. So there we have it, guys. There were the 2 most frustrating sessions I've had this season, and the second one was definitely one of the most frustrating I've probably had in a while. So the next video we'll be back to format, and I do have some really good video ideas coming up. So we'll be chasing bigger fish, travelling to further, bigger venues, and hopefully we'll be breaking some personal bests this season. So stick around and I'll see you in the next video.